Welcome to the Why Not Today podcast, where we celebrate courage, determination, and the power of saying, why not today? I'm your host, Leslie Kane, and in each episode, we dive into inspiring stories of individuals who have taken bold steps, faced their fears, and embraced the possibility of today. From entrepreneurs to artists, dreamers to doers, we explore the moments when they said, enough waiting, why not today? Join me as we uncover the heartwarming, the audacious, and the transformative, whether it's pursuing a lifelong passion, overcoming obstacles, or simply choosing joy. Our guests share their journeys and inspire us all. I started this podcast in honor of my father, Patrick Kane, who often said, why not today? And remember, you're just one decision away from changing your life. And Why Not Today is a movement to inspire people to live their life, pursue their dreams, and not wait, because we are not promised. Like, why not now? And so my guest today is Robin Baker, and it's kind of a funny story talking about connections. She found me on social media recently on a group and reached out to me. She's like, do you remember me? I was your roommate. And honestly, Robin, I was thinking I have lost my mind, like no recollection. But then she shared that she was in college. I was out of college and it was just for the summer, like a month or a couple months. So it wasn't like for years. And so once you said that, I did remember. And so we've reconnected. And she has a really cool group, which we're going to talk about. And it's so in line with Why Not Today. And I'm so excited to reconnect with you, get to know you better. And it's funny, you work for Fairfax County, those people local, it's our big county here. And once I said your name and looked at the connections and we posted things and shared, and like, we have so many connections. Everybody's like, of course I know Robin Baker. I'm like, how did I not know Robin Baker? But I did, but I didn't. So I'm excited to be reconnected. So Robin, why don't you introduce yourself and share um, a little about who you are and a fun fact?
Okay, thanks, Leslie. And oh my gosh, it was so awesome to reconnect with you. It was just so crazy when I saw your picture. I'm like, I know her from somewhere. So it's so great to be here. Thank you for having me. I feel very honored. I'm Robin Baker, and I am a mom. I'm a mom of six children, four out of this body, and two that I inherited. So they are my kids. I also have six grandchildren that I adore and love.
Oh,
As you said, I work at Fairfax County. I'm the director of learning and development there, and I love what I do. I get to help people activate their potential every day. But I know today we're going to be talking about yaysayers, and I really do consider myself a yaysayer. And so, what's a yaysayer? Well, it's something that it's positivity. It's going into the basement, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But so that's who I am. I'm a runner. I'm very active. Health is important to me. Friends, family are so important. And a fun fact is that I'm a huge Barry Manilow fan. So I'm a
really?
fanalow. I
Oh,
go to
that's
see Barry
fantastic.
Manilow many times a year if I can find him close enough to go. So huge Barry Manilow
Fun
fan.
fact.
So
Love it.
yay.
Yeah, and I love your Yaysayers group. And as you said, it's been so much fun to reconnect. And we had one quick call and seen each other twice, but just feel like a long lost friend. And I'm excited you surround yourself with powerful women. And I can tell just the little bit of time we're spending. One, you're fun. And two, that you love family and friends. And I'm just so grateful for your friendship and connection. So, what
And
does
same,
courage?
feel the same, Leslie. So glad we came back together.
Yes. So what does courage mean to you?
Oh goodness. Courage means to me that sometimes you have to take a risk without knowing what's going to happen. Courage is, jumping sometimes without the net.
Hmm.
Courage to me is being very intentional and consistent about doing things and that you don't know the outcome. So sometimes you just gotta live with your passion, lean in, and jump.
So true. And I love what you said, intentional and consistent. And we were talking about that when I spoke at the Yaysayers group, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And you said you could tell my consistency with what I'm doing. And I feel like I'm not consistent, but I guess I am because people are
You're
noticing.
very consistent.
Well, good. I try. And, I'm still figuring out what I do want to do, but figuring it out as we go. So you work for Fairfax County. You got lots of kids. You went to, I think, Radford to school,
Yep.
worked at a bank then. So in your journey, before we get to Yaysayers, are there any why not today moments that really stand out in your life? Those things that you remember where you were, what you were doing, and they took your life and pivoted you to a whole different way and changed your life forever. there anything you can remember, any why not today moments before we talk about Yaysayers?
Well, interestingly enough, yeah, there's a couple. One was even going to Fairfax County because I worked for Northrop Grumman for 25 years
Oh,
and I
wow.
was very comfortable there. And then a friend of mine who worked at the county said, "Hey, Robin, there's a position open for director of learning and development." I'm like, "No, I'm happy." But I said, "You know what? I'll go on the interview." I went on the interview and I thought, gosh, there's so much opportunity here. It's very different. It was kind of like going back in time 10 years because everything at Northrop, and Northrop, by the way, I love Northrop Grumman. They're a great company to work for, but everything was really technology focused.
Right.
And at the county, it was like stepping back in time 10 years where people still had in-person training and in-person team members. I was like, yay, people. So when I got there, I loved it because there was so much opportunity to bring technology, but yet enjoy being in person still. And
Right.
so I took a huge risk and jumped and have been there 10 years now and
Wow.
absolutely love it. So that was a moment where it was scary.
Yeah. So any other why not today moments? Obviously, was a good decision for you and made a great difference in your life.
Yeah.
And you're thriving. I can tell how much you love it.
Yes, I do love it. I have the best team ever. By the way, shout out to Fairfax County team for learning development. Um, I think another huge one was I always wanted a lot of kids, Leslie.
Hmm.
But after my divorce, I had three kids and I was like, I'm done. I'm 30 something years old. That's like ship has sailed. And then I met Sarah's dad, and 10 years into our relationship, he's like, I really want another child. And my tubes were tied. So I was like, can't. So we actually ended up doing IVF. And on the third try, after a lot, and anybody's gone through IVF knows it is not an easy process. And I
Right.
was 40 at the time. So after three, times of trying, and I said, this is my last time, whatever, it worked. And Sarah's a miracle baby because I lost a twin. Sarah was a twin
Oh,
and I lost a twin. But in that, it took a lot of courage to do it. And it's one of those things where you're like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it now. You're 40, like,
right.
whatever. So I call Sarah my miracle baby, and she's been a blessing. And now she's almost 16. So
Oh, wow. Well, it's interesting. I knew you had grandchildren and older kids. And then when I was at your house, like, okay, that looks like a high schooler. Like, she have grandchildren that are high school or so.
no, that's my Sarah. So
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
because my kids, my oldest is 32 and my youngest is almost 16.
Okay.
So
Well, there's
yeah.
18 years difference between me and my youngest sister.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're in the same boat. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first four of us were 5 years apart. And then there was a 12-year gap. And then my two younger sisters were born. I was 16 and 18.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, you get it.
Yeah. Love it. So, all right. So, yay sayers. And
Yes.
it's pronounced yay, Y-A-Y, sayers.
Why?
I have
Yes.
told so many people about this, and they're like, gay sayers? Way sayers? Like, what are you saying? So,
A
so
lot
I'm
of people
spelling it.
mistakenly say naysayer too, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, 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 that's the negative.
Yes. This
This
is
is the
yay
positive.
sayers.
Yes.
And we actually talked about, I don't know if you listened to the episode with Sam Horn that was recorded earlier.
I need
And
to.
we talked about it, and she's like taking notes, like, I love that idea. And everybody I talk to says they love it. So, all
They
right.
need
So
to
this was
come.
definitely a why not today moment. So walk us through your why not today moment and how this was grown and or how was it birthed and how is it grown and let's talk about it.
Okay, so Leslie, first of all, I have to give you so much kudos. I love the Why Not Today. As a matter
Oh,
of fact, you
thank you.
can't see it, but it's on my computer right in front of me.
Yay.
The
And that's my
stickers,
goal. It is a
I can
movement
see
that's
it.
in front of everybody.
I love it. I love the thought of it. I love the passion around it. I love because I've never been a procrastinator. So I think I'm lucky that I just had that kind of natural drive. And I feel like I'm just kind of lucky that way. So I've tried a lot of things before, but this is a little different because I've had Bible study groups before. I've had other women's groups. I've had divorce support groups, things like that. But here's the key. When I decided to do this, there was things that I had to put in place before. And there was two things. And it's funny, we just talked about it earlier. One was had to be intentional. And the second one, it had to be consistent.
Mhm.
And so my Why Not Today moment was, I was thinking about doing it. I mentioned it to my kids who were, I mean, it's been 7 years ago now. So my 32-year-old was -7, whatever, the 20 something. And I said, I'm thinking about starting this women's group. I love my current friends and I want other women who want to go in the basement. And when I say go in the basement, like talk about deep topics, talk about topics that are meaningful. I didn't want to talk about the weather. I didn't want to talk about just the same things, politics or whatever. I wanted to talk about things that women struggle with, or, just people in general struggle with, like confidence and, building trust and friendship and just topics that we all struggle with. But we don't sit around and talk about it. So I said, I think I'm going to put something out on the South Riding page. And
And South
I,
Riding's a neighborhood, by the way, for people listening in
yes,
the
South
area.
Riding,
A
Virginia.
pretty
There's
big
not
neighborhood now.
5 to 10,000 people. It was about 5,000 then, but I'm like, I'm just going to put it out there. Who wants to come to my women's group? I'm going to have it at my house on this date, da da da. And the topic's going to be friendship. And then I went to bed. And the next day I had 300 people that said, I want to join. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And my husband's like, honey, what did you do? Like, where are we going to have? And I said, look, I know I am in the business, right? I know groups enough to know 300 people aren't coming.
No.
They're
And
interested.
especially if it's free.
That's right. They're not coming, but people will come, but not 300. Don't worry. So I had it at my house. I think 20 people showed up, and our first topic was friendship. And we literally, Leslie, sat around the room. It's from 7 to 9. I picked Tuesday nights just randomly because that worked for me. And 7 years later, that's what we do every
Wow.
other Tuesday.
I was,
Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it's not once a month, it is every other week.
It is every other week. And I have only missed 2 sessions myself. And one I was out of town and one I was sick, but every other week. And I think it's so important for anybody out there listening. If they're going to do anything, start a business, do something like this, start a group, whatever. The two things I have learned is you have to be intentional. So you can just meet, that's fine, and say, let's get together and be social. But I find that it makes it so much more meaningful if you have something for them to do. So even if you put a question, like pose a question like you did, why not today? And then have everybody go around, or you just say, I matter because, and then everybody goes around like, but it's less of a social group. We are social, as you see,
Right.
but it's more of a people come because it helps them grow. And when we hear like people, people have issues, people have, you know, and it's weird because it's also not like a group where people come and bitch, and excuse my language, but it's not a come and
Yeah.
dump group, but we're very supportive of each other, like in a positive way. Like we try to, help each other. So the intentional part is important. The second thing that's so important is the consistency.
Yeah.
You like if the leader or the people in charge are always canceling, then people are going to think this is not a stable group. I don't want to be part of it. But if you keep doing it over and over again, we don't care, Leslie, if one person shows up. If one person shows up, then it's me and that other person, and we hang out and we have a great discussion and whatever. Sometimes we have 4 people, sometimes we have 25, sometimes we have 30, sometimes we have 3. It doesn't matter. We're still together doing things. Now, we also do community service. We're singing at sunrise. If anybody wants to come and is local on December 18th, and we always go to the Fair Oaks Sunrise. We do singing every year. Santa
Did not know
comes and we
about that.
bring stuff. We do a lot of other stuff too, like fun stuff, like we'll go to wine style sometimes, but again, there's a purpose to it.
Right.
Um, but it's really just women getting together, and Leslie, we don't talk enough.
No, we don't. And it's interesting just in hearing you share about Yaysayers and participating. And then really, I started the Why Not Today Connects events for the same reason. We're not building community and connection. And so many people I've talked to recently are starting these groups. And people are starving for community connection. Men and women think differently. And
Yes.
women, we need those community, we need those connections, we need those girlfriends. We need to make time when we're busy to fill
Yeah.
our cup. Um,
Yes.
and I love that you're intentional with subjects. And so sometimes you have speakers and sometimes you do fun things like make gingerbread houses.
Yep.
Um, and I love the community service, but also that you're consistent with it and it is every other Tuesday. One thing I have found with doing events and groups is you'll have somebody say, "Oh, but Tuesdays don't work. Could you do another?" Like what you did was you picked a date that worked for you and your family and then worked around it. And if people really want to come, they'll move things around. Like I've really wanted to come, but it always fell on the second and fourth. And I have another commitment on the second or the first and third Tuesday. And so I
Yeah,
couldn't, but then I'm like, oh, it's every other week. So now the calendar changed a little bit and I've been able to participate. But the consistency is key, the
it is.
intentional and just a safe place that people can share. And I know when I was there and I spoke about courage and we literally just had everybody go around the room and what does courage mean to them? We asked that question. I kind of ran the event, not that I was running it, but kind of um, structured around what I do with the podcast episode. Ask people what courage was. And then I asked people like, what is that one thing you've been putting off or you need to do or you've done? And one of the ladies raised her hand and said, and I don't know all the backstory, but that she had shared something with her husband that they were having some struggles. And she's like, made an agreement. And, she was bold. And I think she was able to do that because she had a tribe behind her. And we need the tribes behind us. And
Absolutely.
the connections and somebody, and you got to have those friends that you can call in the middle of the night if you need something, they'll be there, or you just don't know who is in your corner in your tribe until you go through hard times. And then you find out who's there and who's not. And it's
Absolutely.
the person that you least expect that does the little thing that just it means so much and it's such a little thing. I am got this from my grandmother who passed it on to my mother and to me is I am big about writing notes and sending cards. Like we don't get enough mail.
Right. I agree.
And so I always send thank you notes for all my podcast guests. And if anybody's listening and I forgot one, I apologize, but I'm pretty good at it. But I sent one to somebody the other day and she sent me a email back. She goes, think she said I was a class act, that she got a thank you note. And I told my mom, I'm like, that's sad. That's a class act that send a thank you note. Like
But
that should
she's
be
right because
standard.
you don't see that anymore.
No, and I've mentioned this on podcasts before, and this is a whole squirrel subject, but I saw a mail delivery person delivering mail one day, and the woman walked up to the house and she goes, "Oh, here, you can give it to me, but I'm sure it's all junk and I'm just going to throw it away." Well, I live in a condo and we have a mail room, and next to the mailbox is a trash can, and literally you take your mail and throw it in the trash.
Mm.
And I'm like, as mail carriers, do they have a less of a self-worth or do they even pay attention? Or they get excited when there's a handwritten note and something from a family member or a card. Do they like Christmas when there's more cards in the mail, which there really aren't that many anymore? Or do they even think about it? But like the little things you can do that just make such a difference.
It's true. It's so true. Even like a sticky note, like if you leave at somebody's desk, like at work or something that
Mhm.
says like, thank you, or have
Yeah,
a
I
great
look at
day.
when I
Yeah.
order something online, order something from a person, not on Amazon, but a person, and there's a note, just a handwritten thank you, like, or a check when customers have written me checks for Mary Kay and put thank you in the
Yes.
memo. And so
Yes,
I try to do that because it does make a difference, those
it
little
does.
tiny things.
Yes, it does.
Yes. So what are some of the other subjects you guys have talked about or had guest speakers for?
Well, I'm lucky because, I'm in the business, right? That's what I do for a living.
Right.
So I teach. So we have a lot of, we have an abundance of things that we talk about, giving and receiving feedback, building confidence. Um, again, you matter. We talk a lot. We've even had financial speakers, like my neighbor, is really good at budgeting. So she talked about budgeting and for women and, we don't really do businesses per se.
Right.
Um, but if there's a subject people want to hear, and that's what we do typically at the beginning of the year. Just so you all know, if you're local, again, look me up on Facebook, search Yaysayers and you can join. But in January, our first meeting of the year, we always do vision boards. And then I also have like, where you can sign up for, ideas. I give me ideas for the year.
Okay.
Um, and so that's where we get the topics, and I bring in speakers or I ask people. Sometimes people will also want to speak that are in the group. Like I have people who teach yoga, who she's done like not a yoga session, but a meditation session for us. Like, so there's all different kinds of like talented women. And I want people, to bring their talents, or maybe they have a friend. In January coming up too, there's a 90-year-old woman who's going to speak about the life lessons of being a
Oh, wow.
woman. Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Ooh, I might need to have her on my podcast. Yeah, I might need to
Yes.
tap
Oh,
into you for
yes.
guests for podcast and lunch guests too. Because I try to do
Yes.
the same thing with my luncheon, is not to have specific business topics. That
Right.
some people, a lot of people do own businesses because that's kind of the world I swim in, but to have other people that, we had an organizer one time, we had a comedian speak, I had somebody that hiked the Appalachian Trail. She'd never camped in her life until her first day on the trail and quit her job and was gone for 5 months.
That's
Lessons
amazing.
learned. I had somebody else that wrote a book about her father unexpectedly was killed by a distracted driver, and she found his bucket list and wrote a book about it.
I
Of
love
my
that. I
father's
use that from your session. It's on my refrigerator. So,
the bucket list.
yes.
Yeah, so I did. So in this, we're recording this and you're going to hear it. It's in begin December of 2024. But I came up with a holiday bucket list. And I also shared a bucket list. And then one of my guests about a month ago talked about a local bucket list. Like we need to be intentional. And the other thing I did in December is I printed out a blank December calendar and I gave it to my younger sister. And I have one on my refrigerator, and I gave her stickers and I have stickers. I'm 60 years old. I still like my stickers.
I love it.
So I
Yes.
put a sticker every day that I do something for the holidays.
I love it.
So I decorated on Sunday. It's only the 3rd that we're recording this. And then my mom came over yesterday to drop something off, and I fed her lunch and I sat there with her and paid attention to her, which doesn't sound like a big thing, but I'm
It's
always
a
in a
huge
hurry.
thing.
Today
Yeah.
I stopped by Starbucks and treated myself to a fluffy holiday coffee.
I love
So it's
it.
just the little things that you can do. And it can be daily that we're intentional. Like, what are you doing to fill your cup and be around powerful people and pay attention to that?
Yes. I think that is so, yeah, that's so powerful and so important. And again, if nothing else, every other Tuesday, you have that to look forward to. Because a
Well,
lot
and
of people don't have, that,
right.
yeah,
And it's interesting, like working for myself, I don't shut the door and be done and walk out of an office. I can work all the time. And
that's right.
so last week when you had something and I was like, can I be a maybe? And you're like, no, I need a commitment. And thank goodness you said that because I would not have come otherwise. And that's why when you said it's free and a lot of times people don't come, and they don't come because they have no skin in the game.
Yeah,
If you don't have skin in the game, you can blow it off really easily. But I definitely, one of my highest values is dependability. So even though I could have blown it off, but I was tired and it was cold and it's a good half an hour
of
from here
course.
and it's
Yes.
cold. It's
It's
winter
not
time
easy
and
to
it's
get
dark.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but you made me commit. And I came and I'm so glad I did. And that's exactly what I needed because instead of sitting at my laptop all night and continue to work, I need to fill my cup. And I think we need to do that more often.
Well, and it's interesting, Leslie. I want to bring this up because it's not for everybody. Like, it's funny. We have kind of a core group, and you'll see when you keep coming, like, you'll meet, like, there's like a group. And again, everybody is welcome. There is no like limit to how many people, all shapes, sizes, colors. I don't care what you are welcome. And it's not for everybody. We've had people come and they just don't want to go down in the basement. They
Right.
don't want to like dig deep and whatever, and that is completely fine. Or
Yeah.
some people just want like a social group where they go out and they, do that, and that's fine too. We are really for people who want to just have these real conversations, dig deep, have other people that are going to support them through kind of like what you said, like, why not today? Like, what is their next step? What do they want to do? How are they feeling? We've had people go through, we've had somebody in our group who have had tragedies, and they know that, like you said, they have their tribe. And then we have
Right.
people who have done great things. And again, they have their tribe. So a yaysayer, the true definition to me is not just when you're down, you have supporters, but when great things happen to you, you have supporters.
Yeah.
And that's what I love.
Yeah.
And
And I,
Leslie too, we've had to kick, I hate to say it, but I've had to like say thank you, but not for you. Like, it's, we want drama, no gossip, like that type of thing. Like, it's not our thing.
yeah. And I love that. And I usually run away really fast to clicks and the gossip and the drama.
Yes.
And I was talking to somebody yesterday and she kept trying to bring it. I'm like, I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to
Yeah.
partake in this.
Yeah.
There's not enough hours in my day to worry about all this stuff. Like we need to
Yeah.
be
And it
positive.
really does impact your energy. So
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier today. We are talking about her business, and she said that she'd had to shift some employees and let go of people. And somebody told me something the other day, which stuck with me. The minute you have a question whether somebody should be working for you is the minute to let them go.
I agree.
Because once it starts to stew and you just resentful, and then they're controlling you.
Yeah.
And so I think the same thing with the group. Like if
Yeah.
there's somebody that doesn't, and it's not for everybody, and it's not a good group, and yeah, there's somebody else I know locally that's like, why don't you invite me? I'm like, you're invited to my luncheon all the time. You need to show up. And there's my puppy dog. She wants to talk. She wants
No,
attention.
sweetie.
So, and the other thing that I loved about this, and hopefully I don't step on your toes saying this, is I came in your house and it was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
And your decorations are gorgeous, but we came in your kitchen, everybody brought food to share, and it was your kitchen. It wasn't like everything was put away and hidden and this prestige, like nobody lives there. Like your house still was lived in. Your daughter comes upstairs and, you still did life around it. So it wasn't like we came into your house and it was like this show house that it wasn't real.
Well, first of all, Leslie, get to know me. I am at all, people laugh because I'm the type, like, I am who I am, like you get what you see. And as much as I love like the house to be nice and stuff like that, I would rather just have the people in it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, I just want the people in it, and they don't care.
No. And
I'm
they
gonna
don't. And
tell
that's
everybody
one of
out
the things
there.
I love, that I felt even more comfortable there because it was your house. And at the end of the night, and this was funny, you were putting stuff in the refrigerator and Taziki opens up and goes spilling all over the refrigerator. And you're like telling the dog, go, don't eat this. You're going to get sick. And you're cleaning it up and we're having a conversation and all the things, just like right
Yeah,
now, my dog wants to play.
yeah, it's like
You got to
light,
be real.
right?
And that's one of the
You,
reasons I don't edit these podcasts at all, is
I
because
love
I
it.
want people to have permission to just do it.
Yes,
Like you just started this group and you just pushed a button and say, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm committed. And I think
yeah.
that's what we need to do. So I know people have told you should do more groups, which I know you're not interested in. And you said your stepdaughter does one, but it hasn't been as connecting, you said, because they're doing a lot of events. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I mean, people have tried to tell me you need to charge, you need to do this, but honestly, Leslie, like I I'm not looking to have 100 people.
Right,
It's just that's not the purpose of the group. Now, I think for her group, it's different. It's more events, it's more social. They pay. And again, it's great. I mean, but they typically do a craft or like whatever. And I think that that's wonderful. Obviously, people need it. She's out in the Leesburg area. They always sell out like whatever they're doing, and I think it's great. But they don't have
right.
like the
Well,
topics
and they're
and
younger, so they may not be at a place in their life they're ready to talk about those
that's
things,
right.
although they
That's
need it.
right. Yes, that's right. So my goal is never, I, I don't want it to get so big that we can't have these deep conversations.
Yeah. And I
And
love the
yeah.
intimacy of it and the connections, the friendship. And, um, there's a couple other big Facebook groups in this area that have grown exponentially. They're huge and they do events and other people. And I look at them and like there was one I was going to go to recently. And when I saw it, they were all went out to eat, but they were all at a big long table. So you talk to three people that are in front of you.
Yeah, I
And so
know.
I love the structure of yours that, everybody's standing around, getting to know each other. Everybody brought stuff to share, food and drinks. And then you had your activity or your speaker or Yeah, it's just got a really cool vibe.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I would love, I mean, if somebody say was in, Leesburg and they didn't feel like driving, maybe they could start one in Lees. Like I had a friend, a dear friend, she's still a good friend, but she lives in DC. So it's really hard for her to do it here. So she started one in DC. And they get together a lot less frequent. And it's funny, she told me that they were struggling and she said she thinks it's because she's not consistent with it. So,
Yeah.
and it's not her fault. She just had a new baby, like she's got a lot going on, and I get that. But I do think the key to any of these groups or any marketing or any business, like anything, and because I coach people, I'm a certified coach as well, is intentional and consistent.
Yes,
And
I
I
love
know
that.
it sounds easy and you hear it, but it's not easy.
No, well, it's interesting. This goes back to my Mary Kay days. Mary Kay started when Mary Kay, the lady, started the business. She had a meeting for Mary Kay consultants every Monday. And there's some things that were part of that were so important. So one, she started with a song. And she said,
Okay.
because you go to church, she said, whenever she went to church, she's dragging three kids and she gets there and you're all stressed and they start with music and it kind of centers you.
It's so true.
And she also said that if you're having a really good week in your business, you need to come and share and encourage other people. And if you're having a really bad week, you need to come and get encouraged.
Love
And
it.
so that just made me think about what you're doing. And that's exactly what you're doing. There's just not a business around it, but the same kind of subjects we used to teach in Mary Kay. And we've gotten away with that and gotten to more virtual and there don't have the connections. And just being physically around people makes such a difference.
It's all the difference in the world. And there's a loneliness epidemic. I talk about this when I teach
There's a
and I
huge
teach my
one.
engagement, and they say the number one thing is just having this in-person connection.
Mhm.
Um, and again, it takes effort. I get it.
Yep.
I am exhausted at the end of the day. And some days, I'll be honest, Leslie, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Tuesday. I'm tired. Like I gotta clean, people come over. But I will tell you, I have never ever at 9 or 10 o'clock that night said, oh, I wish that would, I'm always like, I'm
Well,
so glad.
there's a book that I quote often by Daniel Pink. It's about regrets. And he says, you never regret things you do. You always regret things you don't do. And I
So
often
true.
teach that about like when you wake up in the morning and you're like, I should do this or work out or something. And if you do it, you feel great all day. If you
Yeah.
don't, you think about it and oh, I should have, would have. And I know for
Yep.
sure, I know whenever I go to things I really don't want to go to, or I'm not so motivated, then I always walk out feeling so much better and
So
energized.
much better.
You
So
could
much
be like
better.
exhausted, like coming home from work, you could lay down on the couch and be done. But once the people leave your house after being there, you feel like, oh, I can go all night long.
I
I'm so
know. Well, and
energized.
especially these women, I got to give a shout out to the Yaysayers OGs, and they know who they are.
Mhm.
Um, to be around these women are just, I really, Leslie, I have met the most incredible, like best friends that are so giving and loving and just positive. And these are not women, by the way, who have not gone through things.
Right.
These are
No.
women who have gone through tragedy and heartache and, and they are still so positive and so loving and just amazing women. Yeah, I feel so blessed and grateful.
Well, what I found with this podcast too is everybody's got a story behind the story.
Yes, so true.
I was just talking to somebody earlier in Louisiana, and she said she's been intentional about reconnecting and reigniting friendships. She's like, I always want to be a part of a book club, so I started a book club. I wanted to travel with friends, so I'm doing a trip with some girlfriends. And that's another idea on my radar is to do a retreat.
Love
It's
it.
going to be called Why Not Today, Fill Your Cup.
I love it. I
Not
love it.
training, not structure, not every minute full, but just give
Yep.
people permission to sit still.
Yep.
All right, so we go on forever, but we do want to kind of cut this a little bit shorter.
Yep.
So how would you encourage somebody else to start a group, to build those friendships, to be positive? What have you learned? Well, how would you encourage somebody?
From Mel Robbins' mouth, no one's coming. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, do it. I
Yeah,
love
I
Mel
love
Robbins.
that.
She's
I do
one of my
too.
favorites. And I really have like that's changed my life. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
You know what? I enlisted that
Overthinking.
this morning when it was cold and I didn't want to get out of bed and take the dog for a walk. I'm like, all right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just go.
Yeah, you just have to do it.
Yeah,
And it's not going to be perfect. You're going to fail sometimes. And guess what? That's how we learn. And guess
exactly.
what? It's not a failure, that you're just learning.
And John Maxwell says, if you fall down, pick up your lesson and get back up.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. True.
So I always try to say, connect back to my dad. And you did probably meet my dad.
I did. I
So
remember your dad. He
I
had
was
a
going to say,
big
so what do you remember
personality.
about my dad? So first
I,
of all, he obviously was my dad. And so you lived with me,
yes.
so you met him. And he was on the board of the bank that we
I,
worked for.
I do remember, I remember him having a big personality. And I just remember his kindness. He had a kindness about a gentle, like almost like a gentle giant kindness
Aw.
about him. And he has the little mustache, right? Yeah.
Handlebar mustache.
And
The logo.
I do remember him. And yeah, I just, it's interesting how you have so many of his traits, Leslie, and
Yeah,
which is such a
figuring
great
that out.
thing. Yeah,
Well, thank you.
I
Well,
love
this
it.
has
Well,
been fun and I'm so
no, thank
excited.
you,
And I'm
Leslie,
going to
so much.
share, I'm going to share your contact information in the show notes.
Yes,
And
please
if people are watching, listening, and you live in Northern Virginia and you want to check out Yaysayers, and it's a group that you can join. And if you are in another area and thinking, I might want to start a Yaysayers group, let's talk.
do
Garden
it.
store.
Do
You know,
it.
I host a monthly luncheon and people are always like, you should do another one in this county or this. I'm like, I almost jumped and did it. And I'm like, no, I'm going to perfect this one. And then I might teach people how to do it.
Yes,
The things that come really easy, you should teach people how. So doing a podcast has become really easy. So I think there's going to be a podcast course on how to do a
love
podcast
it. I love it.
and, how to collect people and connect people,
Yep.
build that community is so,
There's such a need. There's such
yeah.
a need. So thank you
So.
for doing everything you're doing,
Oh, you're
Leslie.
welcome. Thank you for being
I,
such a Why
I
Not Today
love, I
cheerleader.
love your saying, your why not
Dang.
today. And
Well, my big vision, which I've shared more publicly, is that Why Not Today should be a movement, a message, kind of like the Life is Good brand. Like
love it.
everybody should be wearing Why Not Today swag and encouraging people to just do it. And there's actually, I saw another brand and it's like 3 words around mental health. I don't remember what it was, but they said there's actually a term of wearable clothes that say things that does something to you.
Absolutely.
So I need to share that. But
Oh,
so
I
thank you for
love
being
it.
my guest, Miss
Yes,
Robin.
thank you, Leslie. And
And
everybody
thank
have a great day. And thanks again for having me. I
Oh,
appreciate
my
you.
pleasure. And thank you everybody for joining us on this inspiring journey. Remember, every day is an opportunity to take action, chase your dream, and make a difference. So why not today? So make sure you subscribe, share, and review the podcast. And you can find out everything you want to know about Why Not Today podcast at whynottodaypodcast.com. And yeah, remember, say why not today. Thanks, Robin.
Bye. Take care.